Geert, I've got another question for you. Um, how many times did we hear of organizations that are really chasing after that holy grail, that one system to rule them all, like in the Lord of the Rings, one engineering system, etc., etc. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I see it happening quite a lot, either on the business side that they want to do all the processes through one system, for example, or all the engineering departments all have to work with one system, because that's of course cheaper and sounds easier to manage, etc. But yeah, it also is quite a journey to implement it, and it is actually, well, is it always the right choice?
Yeah, it feels a bit iffy. And well, I happen to know someone that is working now at Pandora, a very big corporate company, and have worked at many other companies before, also big corporate companies. And well, he also shares this idea of, does it feel right to chase this one thing idea? So I know Casper Jensen. He's now a senior engineering director of enterprise architecture, and he is really into that idea. Shall we invite him to the podcast?
Yeah, let's do an episode with him.
Okay, let's do it.
The Lead Podcast, a podcast for leaders in engineering, architecture, and development.
So with us today is Casper Jensen. Welcome, Casper.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And the first question is the easy question. Can you introduce yourself and what do you want to talk about with us today?
So, my name is Casper Jensen, and I work here at Pandora, a leading jewelry company. I work with enterprise architecture, and during my career in IT, I've seen my stake of mergers and acquisitions and merging systems and companies and so on. And as you said in the trailer, everyone strives towards that one system, that one intranet, that one finance, and whatever projects are called. But I've not really seen them succeed, or they've always been overtaken by other one projects.
Yeah, I understand. So, well, the logical follow-up question is then, if you see all these struggles and the challenges, so what are your ideas to do that differently?
So, I've seen that while you strive towards doing one system here at Pandora, we may do one POS system, point of sale system, but as we do that and we have a good agenda. IT-wise, business will always buy a competitor or buy another market, and then you end up getting new POS systems, or it could be ERP systems or whatever business you're in, right? And would you ever get to that one system? You may will at some point. But then you'll diverge out again into two when you buy another company or have to sell off stuff, which is even worse if you have one system, right? So you will have to try and merge and converge into one, but I don't believe the end goal should be to get to one, right? One thing is to consolidate, another thing is to actually get to one.
Yeah, and sometimes it has.
You see different. I mean, if you start to accept that you will not get to one, right? Then you need different tactics on building your enterprise, and you also see that you will gain some other benefits with. I call it that you have a diverse technology landscape, and by having that, you get some more benefits than trying to merge into one.
Mm-hmm.
Can you elaborate a bit more on those the benefits of having multiple systems? Because looking at the benefits of having one system, it's easier to update and to to manage, and it's probably cheaper in licenses if you have one system. But looking at from the other way, what are the benefits of having multiple?
So, did you went flying this summer?
I did.
You did.
But it's something that I need to be ashamed for nowadays. So.
Yeah. But some didn't went flying because a lot of airports were down, right? They all relied on one vendor, CrowdStrike, right? And you had one point of failure, right? For your systems. So that's what happens, right? When you have one system, it also happens with your technology that you rely on one vendor, you have one contract, you have one party to negotiate with. Usually, if it's COTS applications, right, then you will have one vendor. But if you start having those mutual brokers in between, because you have multiple systems, then you need to build some kind of abstraction layer to hide that complexity in your domain. Then you also have more rooms to swap one out for another, or play them up against each other. Or if something goes wrong, and stuff goes wrong, then it's not all of your business that is affected, but only half of it, or a third of it, or whatever.
So what made you? What point in your career made you realize that this whole chase of one system might be not the way? Was there some turning point?
So you can say a long time ago, maybe 15 years ago, I had a consultancy company, and we did CRM and ERP systems on the Microsoft stack. I was leading a big implementation for implementing that, and we were to integrate with a lot of systems at that customer site. And of course, as with any other implementations, it was sometimes hard, and we got frustrated. They didn't really understood how we were working. And I went down. It was somewhere in Munich. I took the flight back home on a Friday evening, and I was standing there in the SAS gate. And I remember they had this poster, right, of some advertisement, and it had a plane flying over a skyscraper with the clouds underneath. And then it said, how can you change the world if you haven't seen it? Right. And I took the plane back home, and I thought about that, right? And I was like, all right, I'm trying to change the world in this company, right? But I haven't seen it. Right. I only had I had my own knowledge, and my own knowledge about my own system. And I tried to integrate into a completely different landscape, and I couldn't see it. So we took a different approach, which was, you can say, much more collaborative. And we found out that it's actually, it was okay that some things were managed in two systems, and one was for one market and one was for another. And but we could collaborate and create a good experience together. So that's maybe where I saw it for the first time. That, it was also one of my first time encountering like really enterprise companies where you don't necessarily settle with one IT vendor for everything, but because of the nature of buying other companies, and so you end up with many systems that does the same, and the solution is not necessarily always to replace everything, but maybe build something on top of it, or get them to talk together and live together.
So what I see happening a lot in different companies is that the enterprise architecture department is also plays a role maybe on the negative side of this, because they also want to change this world, the analogy that you use, and they have this view of the world which often is the view of the world on paper, and in this, well, in the very fast evolving world that we live in, is often not the same as reality. So for them, working in enterprise architecture, when you want to change the world, it's easier if you can do that in one system, because then you make the world a lot easier. But that's, in my thoughts, that's a bit of a flaw in theory versus practice.
And I totally agree. It is a trap that you can easily fall into. It is so much easier to draw a diagram where there's just one box instead of having them two, and why are they doing the same? And you start getting all these questions. What about the cost and so on, right? And you can also easily make these business cases for consolidating into one. But when the devil is always in the detail, right? Because then you figure out that let's do one ERP system. But then there are some geopolitical constraints, maybe, that we will have one system, except China. In China, we will have their own, and maybe there's a new legislation in India. They will have their own, but other than that, we will have one system.
Yeah.
But now you're already at 3, right? So why not embrace that there will be multiple, and then when the next merger comes in, and you bought another company, then you plug it in, because you already have 3. Then you will have 4. It's not a big deal per se, but it would be a big deal to go from 1 to 2.
Yeah. And if you we talked we the last 10 minutes we talked a lot about technological diversity, as you called it, different systems that are actually maybe a good thing, because it also reduces risk of attacks like the CrowdStrike or Log4j or whatever, some one technology attack. But does diversity on a more broader level, do you have the same views on diversity of, for example, teams or individual developer diversity, or is that different?
Yeah. So I would say on team diversity, I think it's many times you say that big enterprises, they move slowly and everything is cumbersome and so on. But on team diversity, I would say it's maybe one of the hidden superpowers, if you know how to leverage it, because you will most likely have engineers in so many fields. And if you can unite them beyond their individual groups or tribes or whatever they have, with some kind of community of practices, then you can do many good and creative solutions. I've been with Maersk before, and I remember we had it was very simple. It was a Teams chat channel, whatever, where you could ask tech questions, and there was this Active Directory operations guy. He needed to delete a lot of groups, and they were nested into each other. And he was like, how do I delete them in the correct order? They must be empty before I delete the next one, and so on. So he posted that. And then we had like data scientists, right? Guys with PhDs asking, oh, that is a directed acrylic graph problem that you have. Not that it helped him at all.
First, they Googled what it actually meant.
Exactly. So, but it's not giving the whole answer, but just giving some more perspective on it. And then the next one says, well, you need a topological sorting algorithm to sort that out. It didn't help him either, right? And then one of the Linux guys says, "Oh, you just pipe your file to this tsort program, and it will sort it for you." And it's like, okay, job done. None of these would have come up with the solution by themselves, right? But only by having this team and diversity in the teams, that's when you could come up. I mean, if it was a team of, no offense, but Java developers only, right? Then they would not have come up with this solution that was so simple, so to say.
Yeah.
Or .NET engineers or whatever. So I think on team diversity, it can definitely help. But you have to get that culture up and running of sharing and being vulnerable, that showing you have a problem, and other saying, I don't have the solution, but maybe I have parts of it, and so on, right?
Yeah. So that is also something that really comes from the organizational culture, the operating model. What do you set up within your organization? And I think also a fair amount of psychological safety to have with people. So also the mindset of people to actually be able to share. So putting people from different backgrounds in the team is not enough.
No, you also need the autonomy and a purpose for a team to own that problem.
Exactly.
If they really own a problem, then they can group together to solve this problem, instead of always pointing to point higher up to ask for a certain which direction should we go, and having that capability or that responsibility yourself. And then a diverse group can actually do this.
Yeah.
And how did you in your organization make sure that this was possible for those teams from an enterprise architecture view?
So back then we had this, called it the community of practice, and it was by purpose not focused on a single technology per se, but it was more of a knowledge sharing community. You could ask questions, big and small. Some split into smaller groups to debate it, and we did demos, proof of concepts, and people were, you could say, in the beginning it was very fine polished releases that were demoed, right? You start up with that, people, it's like everything is working. It was almost recorded beforehand. And then over the years, it turned into, what, I just finished cooking this thing. It's not even half working, but I want to get some feedback on it. And then they presented that on a Friday call, and people say, "Oh, we're actually doing something similar, or we tried this, that doesn't work." And we had that kind of talks going back and forth. But it takes time, and it's much of a culture thing, both for managers to support teams in taking these steps, and sometimes pushing them a bit to say, "Is this really good? I know it's not done yet. I think you should bring it to the community of practice just to show them what you have done."
Yeah. And who did you invite to the community of practice? Was that like everyone in the organization, or parts of the organization? How did you get like a diverse crowd in there?
So it was open for every engineer to join, also externals per se, to join. I think also you could, VPs and so could turn up, but most of it was so technical that they tend to drop off again. But that was kind of also the purpose, right? So it was encouraged by all engineering managers to invite engineers to go to this call and show up. And the agenda was shared beforehand. Maybe it was something completely uninterested to one, and then you'll skip that. But otherwise, it was there. It was recorded, and so on.
Now, wasn't that also a risk? Because if you say the agenda was shared, I can imagine that if you do C# for 20 years, you get an agenda that people are going to demo something with React on Linux with some other fancy stack, that you say, well, that's not for me because I'm the C# dude. And I think that is also withholding diversity on the individual level.
Mm-hmm. It is. I always ask people like, who do you think is the most dangerous engineer? Right? Who is the most dangerous engineer? It's an engineer with 25 years of experience in the same tool. It is so dangerous, and
So why is it so dangerous for you?
I was actually very close to becoming one myself. I said I had this consultancy company, and we focused on Dynamics, Microsoft Dynamics, right? So I knew C#, SQL Server, the Dynamics product, and every single business problem that was put in front of me could be solved with this tool.
Mm-hmm.
I could always model whatever problem inside this dynamic tool. You could swap that out for Oracle or SAP or Salesforce or whatever you want. But I could do that in the Dynamics product suite, right? And then I figured out that by being in enterprises, and so that it's true, you could do it, but should you do it? Or is there another tool that is better suited for that, right? You could write everything in C# as a C# developer, but should you? Maybe sometimes Go is better, or Python is better, or so. So that's I think is a trap, that sometimes you specialize yourself too much. You fall into this ecosystem. Let it be a Salesforce ecosystem or SAP ecosystem, and then you know all the tooling there, and you're the expert. Your salary goes up because you are the expert. But maybe you are using sometimes the wrong tool to solve a problem.
Yeah.
So what I've done for actually for many years, it's over 10 years, I have a personal goal to I need to learn 2 new technologies a year. That's a goal I have. I have also put it on many of my engineers. You must learn 2 new tools. Even though you work with let's say C# and so, then you go ahead and learn Python, see how it works. Maybe you'll not use it, but maybe you'll find a project where it actually is beneficial. Learn Terraform, learn Kubernetes, and so on. Just to expand, and also get an understanding of other teams, because at some point you will integrate with another system, right? And then you don't understand how can it be so difficult for them to process 1,000 invoices, right?
Yeah.
I can do that in a for loop in C# and blah, 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 right? But there may be different complexities at their end that you don't understand.
Yeah. So it actually broadens your perspective on problems that you encounter when working with others. So that's where I think maybe the technology stacks of if you have a diverse technology stack, that is what I am getting out of what you're saying. If you have a diverse technology stack, which is a good thing, as we discussed, the only way to actually deal with that is also to have a really diverse population, not only of teams, but also of individuals that are open to different things, right? So no silos, basically.
No. And I've put into goals, OKRs for my engineers, right? That you must contribute to one open source project and contribute code to one of the other teams inside the organization, right? So even though you're a C# engineer, you may be forced to commit some code to a Java team that you are working with, right? So you think we are to integrate. Let me build the first part of this Java thing for you, right?
Yeah. So you're a strong pro, like doing inner source or enterprise open source. So teams, can elaborate together on things in that way. So instead of asking it something to a certain team, you could also, do an implementation yourself and create a pull request, for example, right?
And you many times you get this, I need the data from system X or whatever, and then they say, we have a full backlog. We don't have time to this for this, blah, 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 our priorities and tight deadlines and all that. But if you can come with a mindset, I understand that. Can I do it for you?
Yeah.
Do you accept the pull request? Can I do this for you? I really need this API to also include these 3 fields or whatever it is, right?
Yeah. To do that, you do need a good way to get started with these kind of projects, right? Because often, I only need to change 2 lines of code in this Java project, but to get it to compile, it takes me 2 weeks, right? And run the tests, etc. So developer onboarding also becomes a whole thing. Then if you're on the stack that a engineer is working on, they know all the settings, all the tools that they need, but if you want to do that in a diverse stack, you have to either document that or automate it or at least make it sure.
Technology like CodeSpace or DevBox, like this is a full-fledged environment, and you only need to click to get it, and then that. But I think it's a great mindset, because if you, I like always the design with the end in mind. If you have that vision of, changes, or at least small changes to systems, like adding three fields, for example, should be done by yourself by doing a pull request, then actually that whole other stuff of, then we need to have good dev boxes, then we need to have good process documentation, flows out of that vision. So I really like that mindset of putting things in your organization, like this is where we want to go to, although that might take a while, of course.
And also from an engineering leader perspective, you need to enable this, make sure that is possible. Is that also something that you from enterprise architecture try to give into the organization? Like, these are the things that could speed us up in the long run, because at first they're like, our team already knows how to compile this. Why should we invest in documenting and now automating setting this up, right? We only have one new engineer every 6 months, so why should we invest in this?
Yeah, and it is, you can say, it is very much into the individual teams on how they do this. We have teams that work with SaaS products, and so then you have one kind of onboarding, and if you are purely code based, then it may be easier to have these code spaces and dev containers, and so on an EA strategy, you can say. Some of the things that we're looking at is adopting more of a platform engineering mindset, where we centralize some of the infrastructure capabilities, like a Kubernetes experience, and so which also helps in spinning up, let it be dev containers and also dev virtual machines over in our virtual machine environment. So we are looking at that, and we have we also have quite a few externals that on and off board. So giving them a good experience is something that we drive a lot.
And a small question: if you focus on that platform engineering side, it might sound like, oh, you're centralizing everything again, right? So you're doing one thing. I would like to add to that. So I think platform engineering is about building golden path. So if you say this is an easy way how to do it, but you can always choose to do it in your own way, if that suits you better, if that works in your process, your technology better. But this is the batteries included, so you don't have to spend any effort on it. So it's not going back, like we always do in circles, back to the one system to rule them all, but just speeding up a certain pillar that a lot of people might use.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, looking at the time, I think we almost need to wrap up.
Yeah. So final questions. So looking from you as a engineering architect or enterprise architect, I must say, what would be your advice to the people within other organizations, bigger organization? What would be your advice to them? Like, this is what you should start on today.
Yeah, I think the overall here would be to accept and embrace the diversity you have, both whether it's technology diversity, the team diversity, or at an individual level. Maybe don't try to fight it as hard. I've tried several times to get to this one solution, right? Better go with the flow. You cannot control business, right? In that sense, it's not like business will come and say, oh, we will acquire this company, and then you have any power in saying, oh no, you cannot, because they don't run C#.
Yeah.
You know, that's just not going to happen, right? So you're not in control of that. So rather embrace it and accept that that there will sometimes be 2 and 3 of the same thing, and get the best out of that instead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
trying to see those benefits, and instead of only looking at the downsides of more costs, etc.
Yeah. All right, thank you very much, Casper, for your insights on this topic. So thank you.
Yeah, and also big thanks to our listeners. Hopefully, you'll listen again in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye.
The Lead Podcast, a podcast for leaders in engineering, architecture, and development.